Back in the library. Last week was such a success with the library live stream with our special glowing illuminating friend over here and all of the mini illuminations in the background that I thought we'd go for round 2 and see who shows up. Today we're going to be talking about shadow work with a specific focus on your shadow behaviors. For me, this is how I break down the shadow work concept into something which is immediate and accessible. Your shadow behaviors are fundamentally your vices, your addictions, your self-condemnations, your sabotages, the many ways that you trip yourself up, the everyday common things that you know are getting in the way of your well-being. And that's what we're going to be discussing. Hopefully, as people start coming through on this live stream, if you're watching on replay, you're going to see me responding to people in the chat. Please do make sure to try and join me as often as you can. I mean, just keep your notifications on. You're going to see me coming through at least on a weekly basis, but we're going to respond, me and the chat. We have these conversations about the shadow behaviors. Let's see how this unfolds. I'm seeing people streaming in. Rennie, I see you in the chat. Welcome. Who am I talking to today? If you're joining live, please make the opportunity your own. I'm not just a man on the internet. This can be a real conversation. If you type something on your phone and you say, hey Jordan, I'm so-and-so, I'm tuning in from somewhere in the world, Giselle sends a smiley face. See, this happens in real time. Show me where you're seeing me from in the world, and we will then do some honest shadow work together and hopefully defeat our demons. Shadow Sister Healing in the chat. Hi, I'm just having a cozy moment. Well, if you're having a cozy moment, see if your demons and behaviors are welcome. I see Giselle from Spain. I see Chris from Ireland. Welcome. I see Diaz. Good evening, Jordan. I see Philippines from Bernina. All around the world. Anyone else want to drop in? Where is the shadow being illuminated today? We're going to form an international network around the globe of shadow investigation tonight. I see Kay and Kat in the chat. Hello at work from San Francisco. Fantastic. I hope you're well, and I hope your family and friends are well. I know the fires have been burning over in California. It's pretty terrifying. I've been in contact with some people who I know out there, and yeah, my prayers are with everyone who's affected. I see more people in the chat. Hello, hello. Italy in the chat. Fantastic. I think we've got enough people to start the conversation. Malaysia represent, exactly. Got a couple dozen people here. Let's get the conversation started. If you were here last week, you enjoyed the first ever real-time library live stream. There's a reason for this. First reason, it's very cold outside. We're in the middle of winter, there's frost on the ground, and although I love going for a walk in the wintry weather, it doesn't necessarily lend itself well to me doing this and walking around for an hour or an hour and a half, because my fingers get exceptionally cold, and then it means I can't actually engage with the chat because I'm struggling to, actually tap. It literally won't register. My fingers will not register on the screen. It gets that cold. I'll be fine. But for the sake of live streaming, I might need to do a few more indoor streams, at least through January going into February, and then we'll get back outside, and in the spring and the summer, will be true barefoot walks, really enjoying the grounding again. So that's the first reason we're in the library. Second reason we're in the library is that I have access to all of the books I've been recommending lately over on the community posts. You've seen me hold this one up before. I want to see in the chat right now, have you got your copy of Meeting the Shadow? Have you read this book? It's the foundation for shadow work. It's the foundation. There's no better entry point into the world of shadow integration and the shadow behaviors that we're talking about today. And just seeing kind of a temperature check, how many people in real time with me are at least at the basic level of shadow formation. If I know that we've got a general understanding of the basics, we can just go deeper on this live stream. I see Aura saying, yeah, read the book. I see Rini, not yet, but they're looking for it right now. I see Shadow Sister Healing. I took your golden advice and ordered and got Meeting the Shadow this week. I started reading. Fantastic. If I can see 5 or 6 people confirming they've got a copy of Meeting the Shadow, or at least one of the basic books I've been recommending, perhaps the book that I've just recommended, Young's Map of the Soul, these 2 books together, I'll have the confidence to go straight in at the deeper level today. I see Giselle saying, I've read many shadow books. I see Chris saying, up next after I finish Murray Stein's book. Fantastic. Chris is already reading Young's Map of the Soul. If I'm right, you're reading this one. This is the one I'm recommending today. It's one of the 6 books down in the description that I'm recommending you start your year off with. Click the link in the description. I'm going to send you a study guide. You're going to get these 2 books and 4 more of them. You're going to get top recommendations. Chris is reading this one. Multiple people are reading Meeting the Shadow. Giselle's also reading Owning Your Shadow by Robert Johnson. Fantastic. Kane the Cat just got it delivered. Peter ordered them both earlier this week. Engaged community. We are an engaged community. I'm glad to know that my words are not just disappearing into the void, but we're prepared and primed for a real shadow work adventure. We're about 5 minutes into the stream. We've got a couple dozen people here. If you're watching on replay, you've probably skipped to this point because it's where I timestamp the shadow work is beginning. Let's talk about our shadow behaviors. Shadow behaviors, shadow territories, and shadow entities is my 3-stage process of, let's call it simplifying, but also making shadow work practical. I'm not going to talk too much about the shadow entities and shadow territories in this live stream because that's the stage after identifying your shadow behaviors. There's a lot of oversimplification on the internet. I'm going to fall victim to this in this exact moment, but hopefully I won't become too stupidly simplified in what I want to try and do in this live stream in real time. What I want to do is bring out some of my shadow behaviors, my addictions, my vices, my own bullshit behaviors. I'm going to ping them off the people who are here live. We're going to start a conversation, and then hopefully, by me going first and sharing honestly about the ways that I'm still a little bit fucked up and I haven't got control of my shadow and I haven't even got full integration of a lot of my adolescent wounds, it might encourage a bit of honesty and a bit of integrity from everyone who's joining live and anyone who's watching on the replay. Maybe we can affect a couple thousand people this week. That's my intention. That's my inspiration before I go onto the Shadow Work Library second community call in about 2 hours time. We've got another group call. Last week I left it way too close and I did this live stream and then went straight over into the group call. But before I get into that group call in just a few hours, we're going to do a bit of real-time shadow work. Does that sound good? Let me know in the chat, are you ready to defeat some demons together? We might as well. It's the second week of the new year. No reason for demons to be participating in 2025. Might as well conquer some vices. Might as well crush some addictions. See, make 1984 fiction again in the chat. Always. Always the time to defeat some demons. Georgia says yes, exclamation mark. Are you ready to defeat your demons? Giselle says yes. I want to see no more demons in the chat. It's the one silly moment for this stream. Maybe we'll get a silly moment later, but no more demons, ideally in all caps. I want to see that coming through in the chat. Great candle to keep the focus, I agree. No more demons in the chat. Once we've set the intention, I'll bring out my daemon or demons. No, we definitely want daemons, the D-E-A-M-O-N, which is the spiritual essence of genius, but we want no more demons. See it there, Bernie, no more demons. Georgia, no more demons. Emily, no moat demons. So excited that she got a typo right there. It's good enough. It's good enough. It's more, exactly. Yeah, the facepalm emoji. It's good enough, Emily. Honestly, it's good enough. No more demons from Kundalini King. Well, I mean, the King of Kundalini definitely doesn't have any demons, although definitely watch out for your spiritual shadows if you are the Kundalini King. That's enough fun for now. Let's go straight into the darkness. So, my darkness is quite simple. I've shared about it on YouTube before. I'm going into my desk right now, and I'm going to show you something. Haha! I can't, because it's in the other drawer. But what I can show you is this. This is my offline phone. In my drawer, I have my live streaming phone. And I was going to do a dramatic moment where I hold up both phones at once. So we have to imagine that I'm going to do that. Otherwise, I ruin the theatrics of this whole situation. Let's imagine Jung's map of the soul is a phone. And this phone is also a phone. I'm holding up 2 phones right now. And I say that my demon is screen addiction. Because it fucking is. I'm recording on my phone. I've got my offline phone. I also have my live streaming phone. I've got 3 phones in this library, and I've been caught in the triple scroll prison. Often when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do in the morning will be scrolling my phone. And not just one phone, I'll double hand my phones. I'll have 2 different feeds going at the same time. I'll be scrolling Instagram over here, I'll be on TikTok over here, and if I'm lucky, if I'm fortunate, if I've remembered to charge my 3rd phone, I'll even use my toes to scroll the 3rd phone. I said I was done with the silliness, not quite. If you can't tell I'm being sarcastic, I don't triple stream and triple scroll with my toes. What I'm trying to illustrate and just create a bit of a fun moment is that, as bizarre as that imagery is, It is equally bizarre if you were to walk in on yourself and see yourself on your screens. It's not even this. This isn't even it. Most people are in this posture. Huh. Insane. Insane. It is like an AA meeting, I agree. I noticed I was spending way too much time caught on my screens. I've already conquered the demon of pornography. It's been years since I overcame that vice. But still, going onto social media every single week, and YouTube especially, as soon as my thumb gets that first tap, I'm sure many people can relate, as soon as I get that first little tap on the screen, it's very difficult to stop the next gesture. If you're plugged in with somatic therapy and you understand things like bioenergetics, you'll understand that there's unconscious shadow patterns at the somatic level. There's almost a muscular shadow. There's a compulsive pattern. It's like you're a dog that's being conditioned to salivate when the bell goes off. And the notification bell, ping. Guess what you do? Very simple. Click, up, enter your passcode, tap. Click, up, passcode, tap. Or maybe you have the retinal scan or you do something like this, but you have the same exact motor pathway again and again and again. And I was stuck in that. And I realized about 4 months ago that the way to get myself out of this particular shadow behavior is to initially create some boundaries about something that is very good for me overall, but unfortunately had gone a little bit out of control. I set the intention 4 months ago. You may remember this community post. I had a community post where I was standing out in a beautiful place in Stratford-upon-Avon. I was wearing a white shirt and there was beautiful foliage around me, and I was on the phone like this with my one leg up, and it was me smiling, and I said that I'm an addict and I'm addicted to the screens, and it had so much conversation about it. If you're here in real time and you remember that post about 4 months ago and I said, I'm pledging to heal my YouTube addiction, you may have commented there, you may have seen the discussion. There were many people drawing inspiration from seemingly my example to try and bring some of my woundedness into the world, which is really weird for me to say. I'm a YouTube personality at this point. I feel exceptionally fortunate to have 86,000 subscribers on YouTube within 3 years. From nothing. 86,000 subscribers. So how embarrassing, how sickening that as a creator on this platform, somebody who's trying to bring consciousness into the world, or at the very least, inspire the consciousness within you, that I would have an unhealthy, polluted relationship to the very medium which I'm trying to bring consciousness through. It became completely unpalatable for me. And the worst part, when it comes to shadow behaviors, is that often you'll be the only person who knows. You can relate. It's the same with pornography. It's the same with drink and drugs. It's the same with apathetic behaviors. It's the same with not responding to people you should be responding to. It's the same with all kinds of things that we do behind closed doors. For the sake of this conversation, I'm going to focus on screen-based addiction and the vice and the demonic nature of that instant, automatic scrolling. What's going on here? We're going to break it down in real time because I think many, many, many people relate to my personal challenge as well. When it came to me admitting just how bad things were, I had to admit that YouTube was my major problem. And hopefully you'll get something out of this share. Years ago, about 3 years ago, I committed myself to having an offline Monday from Instagram. And that meant that on my phone, I would just not go on Instagram on Mondays. And that felt revolutionary at the time. If you haven't taken one day in the calendar, once per week ideally, to have a complete consciousness reset, you've never experienced a digital fast. You've never experienced it. If you have experienced it, and you found it beautiful, why didn't you keep doing it? Sometimes I've seen these stories of people who do a week or even a month of no phone, no social media, but guess what happens? You get right back into it because you can't avoid being on social media if you're a social person who wants to be in contact with media. There's the social aspect, there's the media aspect. The majority of people who are showing up in this live stream, if you're watching this, you have a social media account because you're on YouTube. you can't remove it completely. So we're in a more difficult position compared to someone who's trying to overcome drink, which can be a hardline boundary, drugs, hardline boundary, cigarettes, hardline boundary, shady sexual encounters, hardline boundary. That cannot happen. I refuse to participate. Done. Fine. Easy. When it comes to screens, we don't get the luxury. For me, I found great success on that 1 day a week, no phone Monday, and it became so enjoyable, so unbelievably rewarding for that 1 day per week that I noticed on the Tuesday when I'd go back online, my consciousness would drop. It would just go down. I almost felt the shadow wrap around me. It's as if the darkness of that particular automatic scrolling pattern, the jerkiness of, it was like, what are you doing? I didn't realize back in the day. But every Tuesday when I go back online, I would be eager to get back and see who'd messaged me, see how my posts have done, and it felt gross. It didn't feel like me. It didn't feel like the version of me that for the previous day had read for 8 hours straight, gone for a lovely sunset walk, and then maybe gone to the gym or just had a nice meditative moment. It was almost as if conscious Jordan was over here on the Monday when no phone was present, and unconscious Jordan got the opportunity to walk over the shadow bridge via the unconscious compulsive scrolling of social media, and I kept falling into the same trap over and over again. You can probably relate. You set the highest of intentions, but the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. So what did I do about it? Easy solution. I decided on 2 days per week. Monday and Tuesday, no Instagram. That worked for about a year. And then it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This year, and most of last year, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No Instagram. No feed, no scrolling, no short form. At least on Instagram. I don't use TikTok. I tried to do an experiment of being a creator over on TikTok. I found it energetically gross. I don't like the platform. I'm probably not going to use the platform ever again, but I tried my best. I tried posting 3 times per day for 3 months in a row. Wasn't worth it. If you're someone who owns a business and you want to use TikTok as a platform, just pay attention to the fact that most people on TikTok are not the kind of people, or at least the kind of people, but in a lower state of consciousness when they're on that app compared to when we're hanging out on YouTube. You are not yourself when you're on TikTok. This is your brain on TikTok. Remember those old commercials from the 90s and the 2000s of this is your brain on drugs with the fried egg? That's your brain on TikTok. So if you're someone who's trying to make conscious change, be careful of the platform that you're using. The short form medium has a certain low band, high attention span consciousness. The platform itself has a different feel to it depending on which kind of unconscious somatic patterns come out. TikTok is the worst. Instagram is probably the second worst. Facebook, not so bad. Twitter's probably a stage above that. YouTube is the top tier in terms of consciousness from my understanding. Maybe you have something like Substack, which is a more conscious platform because it's more reading based. But in terms of the media, the video media platforms out there, I think YouTube is the top of the pack. So I'll continue with the story, and hopefully this will give you some inspiration to heal your own phone addiction and screen addiction issues, and we'll weave it back around into the shadow behaviors, and then I'll open up the floor to other people who are watching live, and we can add in a few different vices and addictions and see if the principles apply or how they might change depending on the particular challenge that you're struggling with. It's kind of like a real-time therapeutic endeavor, and legally speaking, this isn't therapy, it's just an anecdotal conversation, but it's therapeutic nonetheless. When I had successfully got my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, no social media, no TikTok, I had established that habit and it was easy. It became more and more rewarding, but the shadow was not yet integrated. All of that energy, all of that unconscious, jerky, I don't know what's happening, bing, the bell goes off, salivating like Pavlov's dog. And I can't wait to gobble up the content. We gobble up the content on the feed. It's consumptive. Pay attention to metaphors. Fun little book. If you haven't seen this one already, 2 seconds. Tell you what, I'm going to give you 3. 3 books as a reward for paying attention. These books are going to change your entire worldview. There's 3 books right here on metaphor. Screenshot this. And I'll give you 5 seconds to screenshot this. 3, 2, one. These are some of my favorite books from the bridging point between linguistic literature or linguistic philosophy, linguistic psychology, and practical therapeutic work. This book in particular, Metaphors We Live By, is a groundbreaking work, and it shows you how you structure your internal reality based on metaphor, analogy, and story. The way that you relate to your own emotions and your own psychology is fundamentally structured at the narrative level. You are going to have your mind blown by this, and it has implications in terms of your social media usage. We're on the feed. We're consuming content. I'm going to weave a few ideas together right now. We'll take this idea of consumption. You can read this book in your own time. I highly recommend you get this one in particular. It's not easy reading, but it is valuable reading. Metaphors We Live By, that's the book you want to read. If you want to see it practical, go for Metaphor in Practice right there. Excuse the light. Metaphor in Practice is when it goes into therapy. And if you want to go for an old school therapy book, I think this one's maybe from the 80s, potentially, Metaphor Therapy by Richard Kopp. This book is indeed from 1995. 1995, my battered and bruised version of Metaphor Therapy. We're going to do a bit of metaphor therapy in real time. Why not? That's the point of a live stream. We can be spontaneous and we can weave in a few different threads. When you're scrolling the feed, when you're consuming content, you're in a digestive metaphor, right? You're engaging with the world through a digestive metaphor. Your framework of reality is fundamentally consumptive. From mouth to anus, you are in the consumptive inner tube. This kind of sounds weird. It sounds out there. Just play along with me. If you're serious about somatic work, you're serious not just about the beautiful parts of working with your body, the joy in the heart, and feeling beautiful and looking at your face and your body and going, fantastic. You're also interested in things like healthy digestive processes. Having a good top of the funnel to end of the funnel experience. You want a healthy digestion, right? Many people here probably have struggled at one point or another with constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, any kind of candida overgrowth. I've personally had challenges along the way as well. I've worked with clients who have these kinds of issues. It's crippling and it's extremely painful and disruptive, even at the low grade, to have digestive issues. What if we take that same concept of digestive issues and we apply it to this spatial, metaphorical understanding of consumption via the feed, via short form content? Things start to fall into place, at least for me. When you realize, please pay attention. If you're listening to me in the background, this is a moment where you really pay attention. This is the moment. This is the whole point of the video. This will change your relationship with your phone. I'm going to emphasize it. This is a moment to pay attention, whatever you're doing, just the next 30 seconds or so, okay? Sorry for being sudden all of a sudden, but I need people to pay attention to this. If you're already sanctifying your body and you don't drink or take drugs or fuck people you shouldn't be fucking, but you're still scrolling, you are consuming in the exact same way. If you wouldn't smoke a joint, take 5 shots, and then fuck this disgusting person who's horrific, like energetically horrific, they're physically disgusting, you're gagging and vomiting in their presence. Why would you consume content from people who are intentionally manipulating their algorithms and your attention span to have the exact same effect? You're coming out at a loss. Excuse me for being overly dramatic and for using visceral language, but I want it to really land. In the same way that you wouldn't want to have sex with someone who smelled awful, that you wouldn't want to eat putrid food, a rotten bit of candy, junk food at the very first stage, but also rotten junk food. When you start to understand that short form content is the psychological digital equivalent of junk food, and your body is a temple, and when you're consuming physically, that's obvious, but when you're consuming through your eyes and you're consuming in your mind, you are in the same psychological reality. I see Giselle in the chat, it really goes deep. It does go deep. It does go deep. And if you realize this, sometimes you get the opening to be able to choose to break the pattern. It can really work. practically speaking, if you understand the metaphoric nature of reality, and you understand the consumptive baseline metaphor of dissociating, as Rini says in the chat, dissociating through the screen, you get an opportunity to become free. For me, I had to realize this in the hardest way. My shadow behavior, as I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, went from baseline level junk food, scrolling Instagram, seeing fitness memes and spiritual memes and spending an hour on there. That was fine. I cut that out, realized it wasn't worth my time. But what do you do if you're actually hungry for high quality food? I'm going to weave the metaphors together again. It's not junk food, it's not cigarettes, it's not drugs, it's not someone that you don't want to sleep with and you're forced to do it. It's none of that. None of that. You're not controlled by those demons and shadows, it's none of that. You're genuinely hungry. You found an organic meal, went into a shop, went into a beautiful restaurant. There's a fantastic, I'm going to make it a scene. Walking through your local town or through your city, a new organic restaurant opens. It's opening day, you can't believe what's happening. You've been walking past this place and suddenly it's sprung up overnight. And as you're walking down the street, the restaurant owner comes out, smile on their face. They've got this wonderful apron full of vegetables. You know, vegetables are literally spilling out. There's all this organic goodness. And they come over, they shake your hand and say, I've been seeing you around here. I'd love for your first meal to be on the house. You go inside. Of course. You're hooked. You've been given the equivalent of a restaurant notification. You're on your way, ping, off you go into the restaurant. You sit down. You've got the menu. It's all put in front of you. Fantastic, you've got the opportunity to leave. But you're not going to, because you're genuinely hungry, and this looks like a good place to hang out. It's the equivalent of you going on YouTube and watching your favorite teacher, your favorite coach, your favorite content creator, someone who you genuinely like. They're inviting you into a place that you want to exist inside with healthy, nourishing information and energy. You might want to use a projection of me in my videos. If you're here, you may want to make it this meta moment of even I'm doing this. I'm the restaurant owner. I've interrupted your day. What were you doing before you clicked on this live stream? I don't know. But I've interrupted your day because I have my own agenda. I want you to be here in this live stream to spend time with me, and I'm also going to share some things like these books I want you to read, and I'm going to recommend that you click the link in the description to get more books and potentially considering joining me in the Shadow Work Library. That's my agenda. Transparent, open, it's a good agenda. I believe in what I do, but I've still hijacked your consciousness, just a little bit. That moment right there, where I'm trying to give you an organic meal. I see Kundalini King saying I was reading in the chat. My heart is broken. I've stopped one of my own wonderful community members from reading one of the books that I believe in. Most likely, one of the books I believe in, or a book that's very similar. I know that Kundalini King is the king of Kundalini, so I'm pretty sure that he's going to be reading some conscious work, but I stopped him in his path. This is where it gets to the next level in terms of screen addiction and shadow behaviors. If you're following the metaphor that I'm drawing out in real time of me being the well-meaning, healthy content creator and you being the genuinely hungry content consumer, how do you know when to limit your appetite? How do you know when to stop? For me, I'm going to be real, I didn't know. I didn't know for years, 12 years to be precise. For 12 years, I have used YouTube almost every single day. Mostly for self-development, mostly for business and fitness and spirituality, a little bits of entertainment in there. 90% of my YouTube usage, self-development content. Let me know in the chat as I take a sip of my tea. Are you in a similar position? Is YouTube mainly the place that you hang out and watch self-improvement, self-development, self-healing, things like this? Can you relate to my story? Because if you can, I'm going to show you how to overcome it. I see in the chat, Arzin, yes, but it's all pointless in the end. Mr. Dan says 98% self-development. He's got 2% cat memes and funny fail clips, but 98% self-improvement. Powder Blue, yes, but an end's in sight. Uma, yes. Kundalini King, YouTube is the only place. Aura says, yes, I use YouTube for that. Rachel, it used to be, and that's how I found you. Shadow Sister Healing, I think we all like to be here, like on a book cafe for Friday evening on candlelight. Burger Cat says 10 years of YouTube addiction. Emily Daly, absolutely. Renee, I don't watch as much as I used to, about 30 or 60 minutes every other day. There's a lot of resonance in real time in this conversation. Arzin adds as a final comment, most of it is in the guise of being good, but there has to be a clear intent or else it's just delusion. Let's make some change this year, in this moment. I am the restaurateur. You have stopped your day to spend time with me on this live. What I've already done today is I've given you this meal. I've suggested this appetizer, and I've given you a 3-course sampler menu of these 3 metaphorical books. Given you 5 books already. They're all fantastic. The reason they're in this library is because they are fantastic. A book does not stay in this library if it is not meant to be here for you, for one of my students, or for myself. If it's a dead book, it gets banished to the garage. About 200 books have been banished to the garage. It's not necessarily that they're bad books, but I don't want low-tier books polluting the energy of this high-tier space. I really feel it. I feel, sometimes I feel this moment when I'm going through the library, like, over there, and my spidey sense tingles. And there's a crappy book that made its way into the shelves and I read 3 months ago and I just put it back in and I didn't clear it out. Sometimes I get those moments. These aren't like that. Books have to be alive. I've given you living food. It's up to you how much you choose to consume. The problem with YouTube in particular is that your best intentions, my best intentions, are genuinely to use YouTube for self-improvement. In the same way that eating an organic meal is genuinely nourishing. I didn't realize this for years. I'm still only coming to terms with it. At what point did I become a self-development glutton? Did I suffer from the psychological shadow of digital obesity because I couldn't stop watching YouTube videos and none of it felt bad? But I didn't know what existed on the other side of even better. On my offline days, when I wasn't using social media, when I wasn't on Instagram, when I wasn't responding to my clients or I was taking time for myself, I'd be reading a book like Meeting the Shadow, link in the description for 5 more books like this. See what I'm doing. I have my own agenda. I do want you to click the link in the description. I believe in the Shadow Work Library, but also I'm force feeding you. Invitationally, but I'm force feeding you. Weird, right? I'd be reading books like this in my offline time. And at the same time, I would have a YouTube video up on my phone. I'd be doing something like this. Gonna build out the soundscape for you. What I would be doing is going on YouTube. What's fun about this phone is that this is my offline phone. So you'll see that actually I just have YouTube music down there at the bottom, Google Docs, camera, and then Google Maps at the top. But then there's no social media. It's just me hanging out with myself. So, it's your choice. You can make an offline phone if you want to. What I would do is I would use YouTube and I'd either have YouTube music playing. I actually can't do this, can I? I can't copyright strike myself. I don't think I can. Imagine I'd have YouTube music or imagine I'd have a YouTube video playing. I'd have that playing in the background and I'd still be reading in the foreground because I thought it was better to be more immersed in an idea. Oftentimes what I'd do is I would listen to videos from creators who I find inspiring, genuinely high consciousness individuals, and it would give me the novelty when I'm going through a book that was similar to one that I've already read before. Many of the books at this stage are pretty familiar. There's not that much novelty. When it was a truly new book, I'd slow down and I'd allow myself to take the time. But when there's many books that are similar, I wanted to keep the energy rolling. And I was stuck in this for years. I can see people relating in the chat. Listening to YouTube videos in the background while watching in the foreground. Watching the book, watching the video, just moving, shifting focus. Can you relate? That was my habit. It really got to me. Until 4 months ago, I decided to change things. I decided to get a hold of my shadow behavior. And this is where I had to be honest with myself. That which was good for me became bad for me when the good thing was overconsumed. The shadow behavior within my own genuine, well-meaning, authentic, healthy choice-making capacity had become shadow, had become burdensome, had become damaging because of overconsumption. I repeated the same point over and over and over again in slightly different ways throughout this live stream. You might be a little bit bored. Come on, Jordan, when's the next thing? When's the next thing you're going to say? Is there a next thing? Is it any more than a statement? My healthy choice became an unhealthy choice because I overconsumed. The digestive metaphor. Visually consuming, energetically consuming. It's your choice if you want to turn that statement into an action. I could preach at you. I could inspire a moment where we all commit to change. I've got a group call coming up in about an hour or so. In fact, 1 hour, 55 minutes from now, I'm going to be getting onto a group call with about a dozen individuals in my private shadow work library community. It's fantastic over there. We're going to be talking about a similar idea, bringing it out here on the live stream, and then we're going to go deeper in real-time conversation with people responding and going backwards and forwards. Last week, we had a fantastic call. If you're on the email newsletter, link down below, you'll see some of my reflections as I'm weaving together what it's like to be a teacher in a new community, and also my musical choices. I've been listening to a lot of power ballads this last week, Creed in particular, with Arms Wide Open. If you know the song, it has been the soundtrack to my week as I've been arms wide open, introducing everyone to the Shadow Work Library. I spent about 5 or 6 hours writing an email about the symbolic importance of arms wide open and being a teacher, inspiring shadow work amongst community members and anxieties of abandoning your people when you have your offline time. You can read that down in the description. You'll get that email if you sign up today in just a few days. But that's what I've been experiencing. In about 55 minutes, we're going to be going into the Shadow Work Library community. We're going to be talking about the same ideas in real time. In real time, I can have a conversation with you as an individual and look at your life, and maybe we have an accountability moment. I don't find it works over on YouTube. On YouTube, we can say things in the comment section. We can, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be free of my phone. No more unconscious YouTube. I'm never going to, the mood, the energy is there. I'm never going to listen to a YouTube video while reading a book ever again. No, never gonna do it. Promise. Pinky promise, I'm never gonna do it. Gonna pinky promise with the candle. Rarely is that sustained. Very rarely. If you want authentic shadow integration, you need to make a choice. And an authentic choice can only come from objective and subjective awareness of your choice-making patterns in an integrated manner. The objective truth, I had a healthy choice consuming YouTube videos that became unhealthy with overconsumption. That's objective. It's objective. It's objectively unhealthy. The subjective aspect is your unique understanding and experience of that objective reality assessment. For example, for me, my subjective understanding of why I then had a motivation to integrate my shadow behavior. Objective first, baseline, I'm over-consuming. Subjective reality, what really tilted my behavior pattern. You're gonna love this. Hopefully you'll love this. If you've been with me for months or even years, you've seen my transformation. You've seen how the library's grown, not only in terms of the number of books, but in terms of my energy, in terms of my teaching, in terms of my clarity, in terms of the space I hold. Literally, the subscribers have grown, but energetically I've also grown a lot as a man. I realized 4 months ago, especially as I'm launching, and now having launched the School of Self-Integration, my life's work 5 years of research, 700 psychology books, 164 of them reread, 888,000 words manually typed at my laptop like a crazy person. My shadow behaviors became a true limitation. I realized 4 months ago, for me to truly understand the synthesis of all of this material, to be able to properly film that curriculum that I want to film. You can see my vision down in the link in the description. Go over to the school 2026 in the brackets. You're going to see me write at length about my vision for the future. The shorthand is, I'm trying to create something that's truly unique. I want to create, with confidence, with God's grace, and if I follow through successfully, something which is unique. I want to create the best, most integrated, most holistic, 104 book self-integration curriculum that's ever existed, because I have the privilege of 120 years of psychology books and modern internet tools and a variety of business strategies and ways of weaving things together as a creative communicator to try and create something beautiful and unique and truly rather special. That's my intention. It makes sense for me to aim big. I don't know if I'm going to achieve that, but I don't believe that anything like this has ever been done before, not the way that I'm doing it. It's like a university curriculum, but better. It's like a group therapy environment, but better, because it's both combined. Neither of the two, both combined. That's my energy. The best of a master's degree classroom, the best of a really good therapeutic encounter. And I have 104 books as the backbone that we're going to be resting upon. But for me to rest upon that backbone, I need to be in control of my energy. And specifically, I need to be in control of my focus. It didn't used to be a problem to listen to YouTube videos in the background or have access to YouTube multiple days per week. But as I was demonstrating earlier on, this compulsive phone flicking energy, that needed to go. That's fine. I conquered that. But listening, unconscious ears, these unconscious ears, they were the problem. Because I haven't been able to truly listen to my own inner voice and properly hear the nuanced teachings of all of the men and women around me. To hear, as I'm reading, I sub-vocalize when I read. People say this is an issue. I often hear. I hear when I read a sentence like, the recessive traits are also the least adapted sides of our personalities. Sentence from Meeting the Shadow. When I read that, I hear it often in my own voice. If I'm really focusing in, I'll hear it more and more, and sometimes I hear something between the lines. I'll hear the subtext. I'll hear the sub-communication. I can't hear that when I'm listening to a YouTube video, because I move a bit too quickly and there's too much information going in. So, crescendo moment. If you've been with me the whole way, thank you for being with me the whole way. Objective reality, shadow behavior. I'm over-consuming on YouTube. Subjective reason to change. If I don't stop over-consuming on YouTube, I will never be able to fulfill my vision. I'll never be able to create the school that I want to create. I will have spat on my soul. All because I can't fucking resist for just a few days to not take on new information, but to chew the food that's already on my plate. And it hurt me to admit that, but I admitted it to one of my best friends on the phone 4 months ago, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do 4 weeks. 4 weeks, no YouTube, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And because I committed, and because I felt that feeling, I've flawlessly done this. Flawless. For 4 months, I haven't done YouTube. There's a genuine healthy pride on my face. I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to demonstrate the power of objective reality assessment, true felt sense subjective reason to make the change. And the shadow behavior goes from a projection to something which is within your control, and then you get the possibility of really integrating and overcoming something which had a control over you. It worked for me. I'll make a video about this in the future in terms of internet addiction and screen addiction, but that same principle of overcoming based on authentic, higher self, spiritual feeling, in addition to the objective reality assessment. That's the same thing that worked for me also when I was overcoming drink and drugs 6 years ago now, a month from now, literally to the day, I think. We're on the 10th. Yeah, we're on the 10th. 10th of January. 10th of February is my sobriety date. In 1 month's time, I will be 6 years sober from drink and drugs, and I gave it all up when I was at a hippie camp in Portugal. Same exact moment. Objectively, I am dumber when I'm smoking the substance. I'm stupid when I'm drunk. Subjective reality, single strong statement. You've heard me say this before. My soul switched on as I'm there in this hippie camp. Everyone's waking and baking. I'm at the end of my traveling years. I was doing manual labor, construction, working on farms. I tried to fit in with everyone else. Wake up. Fade out the day. Wake up. Fade out the day. Flame always flickering. Everything caught fire, but I wasn't on fire. I felt rather fucking cold. Then my soul heated me up. And I realized I was meant for better. I heard inside of me, you're better than this. You're better than this. You've got more to give. I'm not exaggerating. You're better than this. That was the statement. Wasn't my voice. Wasn't a familiar voice. It was something else. Some people say it's the voice of God. Some people say it's the voice of a guardian angel. Some people say it's a schizophrenic, repressed part of myself. I don't know what it was. But it happened. You're better than this. Clicked for me. Dropped the drugs. Dropped the drink right there. Same exact thing with the screens, with YouTube addiction. It's time to change this. I won't be able to create what I want to create if I keep over-consuming via my ears. I hope you find inspiration in this story. I know in this live stream I've made it all about me. There hasn't been so much community engagement I've seen as I've been watching the comments coming in. I've been reading, ironically, as I've been teaching, consuming the messages that are coming in. Can't escape it on this platform. But I hope to demonstrate that it is possible to overcome your shadow behaviors. As you've been listening, depending on what you're struggling with, if you're like me and you're struggling with screens, make that objective reality statement. Bring it back in. Subjective, felt sense. What's actually going on? Does it create a disgust response? In the same way that if you're consuming rotten food, disgust response. You won't even consume it. You'll pick it up. Maybe this sparkling water. Let's imagine this is putrid. It's a normal human response in a healthy human body. The next level of shadow work, of consciousness, is to have the same response to online digital content that gets you sick, lowers you down. Same response. I'll do it twice, just for emphasis. This is your social media. I think I'll pass. It works. Worked for me at least. I appreciate you listening and I appreciate you paying attention. What I want to see this year is more of us having a healthier, more grounded relationship to this platform in particular. We enjoy hanging out on YouTube. Many of us are, dare I say it, self-improvement junkies. But it can be changed. Can be changed. What I'm trying to do in the Shadow Work Library, in the group call that's beginning in 43 minutes, there's going to be a dozen of us or so. We're going to be talking about shadow behaviors in real time. I'm going to repeat some of the things that I've shared here about my screen addictions, but I also know that we've got the privacy and the safety and the confidentiality for our members to talk about different types of addictions. I'm pretty sure that certain people will have substance issues. Other people might have sexual addictions. Other people might have issues in regards to certain complexes or behaviors. And I'm glad that I get to provide this community and this opportunity where people can be open and transparent. It's, as I mentioned, the Shadow Work Library, this new community to celebrate the new year, to really give an opportunity for deep shadow work. It's about honesty, it's about trust, it's about cooperation. That's why I never record the group calls. I refuse to do that. not going to record a group call. Imagine, I'm happy sharing this with you. I'm happy that this lives on the internet forever. But if you're about to make a big commitment, or you're really sharing something that's been hurting you, I don't want you to know that you're being recorded, firstly, but secondly, at any moment, any community member could decide to just go into the recorded call section while they're eating their lunch, while they're out on a walk, and voyeuristically drop in via their ears and connect with your pain, your struggle, your ambition, your dream. Not just the dark shadow, the golden shadow as well. Sometimes it takes just as much courage to admit what you really want from life. Oh, I love it. Goosebumps in myself. Just as much courage to be honest about what you're here for. Oh, that can be the scariest thing. I want to build this. I need to become like that. I've always known myself to be this kind of person, and now's the time where I'm going to really make it happen. Those kinds of conversations are happening inside the Shadow Work Library community, on the light end and the dark end, all the way towards the light, the golden shadow, all the way down to the lower unconscious, higher unconscious up here, lower unconscious down there. That's what we're doing. I'd love for you to be a part of it. We have the space for you right now, because it's a small community. I'm going to keep these calls small. I'm emphasizing, I'm promoting, and I'm ultimately inviting. You can click the link down in the description. You have time to sign up, get involved in the community, and start making the most of these group calls. We've got group calls every single week in January and February, on Friday today, but normally at Sunday, 7 o'clock UK time. And then we're going to have calls throughout the year, all of 2025. You're never going to get me this cheap, frankly, in terms of group calls. And 2026, I'm going to do admission only. I'm very, 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 very unlikely to be able to sustain the energetic demand of a full YouTube audience. My 5, 6, 7 current clients that I'll ever work with at one time. A fully active community where it's just credit card being the barrier to entry, and a private community inside the School of Self-Integration where we're doing higher cohort level curriculum. There's too much going on. So this is truly the only year where you're going to be able to get access to me and a community like this as cheaply as you'll be able to get access with this many calls, this much contact, and there's posts and discussions every single day. We've got some posts coming up that are pretty exciting. I don't want to share all of them because it's confidentiality. So I just silence myself there. See? Trying. It's natural to want to share. It's natural to be excited about the things that people are working on. I love seeing it as a teacher and as someone who does coaching. But I'm not gonna harvest my students' shadows for marketing material. I'm going to encourage you, if you trust me, if you trust what I'm doing, if you've enjoyed how I've spoken about overcoming addictions and defeating our demons, that maybe for £675 you want to use a discount code that's linked in the description, and you want to make the most of 2025. And for that one £675 investment, you're going to get a 36-book curriculum. You're going to get an active, engaged, intelligent community of individuals. You're going to get access to me personally. You're going to be able to talk to me over on the Circle community. You're going to get to talk to me in the calls. I'd love for you to take advantage of this. That's why I'm sharing it. Whatever you choose to do, if you choose to join me inside the Shadow Work Library community, choose to join us inside of those group calls. A couple dozen of us. Really cool people. Or you just want to read books like Meeting the Shadow on your own. My number one suggestion for today is to just pay attention to the digestive, psychological, consumptive metaphor. Bit of a throwback from a few minutes ago. Anyone joining live, you may not have seen this. I held up a variety of books about metaphors. Right there. Metaphor therapy, metaphors we live by, as well as Jung's Map of the Soul, which I'm talking about over on the community section today. Start paying attention. Start paying attention to how you structure your unconscious mind and unconscious body. If you realize that your scrolling is the equivalent weird. I look weird. You might get a strange response even seeing me doing that. But it's compulsive. It's compulsive, and you're better than that. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. I'm really on your side. I want you to work with these boundaries because I know the power after 4 months of healing my own YouTube addiction, and I look forwards to seeing what I can create as a result of no longer being hooked on that same consumptive pattern through my ears, through my eyes, through my fingers always tapping. You can do this. You can overcome it. I'll see you down in the link in the description. If you want to join the Shadow Work Library again, the discount code is there. £675. It's the cheapest you'll ever get me. I see Victor in the chat right now, right on time. I didn't stage this, but Victor said this was a great conversation. See you on the group call. It's almost as if Victor was a plant. As if Victor, one of the members inside the Shadow Work Library community who was there on the last call, is someone that I've paid to show up and just give this moment of, I don't know. Victor, it's good to see you here. I will see you on the call in just half an hour or so. And if you want to see Victor on the call, I mean, it's very specific. I mean, I don't want to make it too much about Victor. It's about all of us, unless Victor wants to steal the show. I mean, go ahead. Maybe Victor can lead the group call this week. If you want to show up to the group call, and Victor's going to take control. I'm sorry, Victor. You dropped yourself into it. You're going to take control of the group call today. You're going to lead with the shadow behaviors. You can welcome everyone new. We'll discuss it privately. If you want to join the fun that we're having inside the Shadow Work Library community, link in the description, but otherwise I will see you later over the weekend with more posts and a pretty fun video coming out on Sunday. You're going to look forward to it. We're going to learn how to thrive in 2025, and maybe the inverse of that as well, how not to thrive in 2025. I'll see you next time, and remember, keep your candle burning, and I'd rather you spend time illuminated by this than time illuminated by this. One is natural, one is very unnatural. And you can regain your authentic self if you stop consuming digital poison. And sometimes, people who have the best of intentions, the organic restaurateur with vegetables overflowing from his apron, the strange man in the strange library giving you all of these books, he can also be poisonous because you're over-consuming. Just take the time off. Don't do it. Or go deeper. Connect with people in conversation. Shadow Work Library community. Choice is yours. I'll see you next week.